finally get paid for the get down. You can't tell me shit now about time. Do you know how many lines I done put down? Vibes I done sent out, but we ain't here to dig. I'll up the market till they come red carpet the kids. Success still the target, soon I'll be crossing that bridge. But can't bring everybody with me, family only. I got some people think I owe a favor, barely know me. That's why my focus on the road, it's all I know. I see them sticking close to play the wall and watch my...
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Aatrox, and we're back with another Mortal Kombat video. Mortal Kombat 1. So, the last couple days, the videos have been kind of like tied to each other. Like, the first day, it was basically talking about like my wish list for characters. And then the second, and yesterday, it was more about like the story aspect regarding the endings of characters, being canon and like what basically subplots and what could affect, you know, the general like story DLC, like how much of a factor would it be. And so today I did the wish list. I guess I posted short today about who could play Noob Saibot if Bihan doesn't die and all that stuff. So my thing was, I think Bihan's gonna die in the story, either in this chapter or in this game. He's not gonna stay Sub-Zero. I think that's just like kind of like something that's gonna be kind of set in stone, especially if you look at like certain things that are happening in the story and just kind of like, you know, try and piece together like these little breadcrumbs that NetherRealm's been dropping, right? So in my opinion, and like I said, this is all opinionated. Like, this is what I think will probably happen, and it's not to say that it's gonna happen, but it's just my opinion, right? I think Bihan dies. I think Kuai Liang trains Hanzo Hasashi up to take on the new mantle of Sub-Zero. I think something happens and they figure out like Sub-Zero's powers have been transferred over to Hanzo. And I think that, you know, that could be a good way of like kind of just transferring over like that Sub-Zero mantle back to being a good guy, because like when Kuai Liang was Sub-Zero, he was always on the good guys, and it's like, man, it would just make sense. Like, the kind of like, since you took Scorpion from Hanzo and you made Kuai Liang Scorpion, it would just make sense to just do the same with Hanzo Hasashi, and that would like kind of like, you know, make it more sense than just Bihan being Sub-Zero again, because obviously Bihan was Sub-Zero in Mortal Kombat 1, but Bihan's really Noob Saibot. Like, that's who Bihan is, you know what I mean? And like, regardless if you're like a Sub-Zero fan, a stan, whatever it is, I think that everyone can agree that, you know, everyone knows Bihan for being Noob Saibot. Like, regardless of how you feel about him in this new game, he's Noob Saibot. So it would just make the most sense to me for that to happen, especially when you consider like the stuff that happens in the story with for example, like Kenshi getting blind again. Like especially if you really look at that part where they're talking to Liu Kang about what happened when they tried to capture Shang Tsung and ultimately it didn't go well. They basically said that Melina blinds Kenshi, which honestly was like indirectly because of Shang Tsung. Like, Shang Tsung manipulated everybody during that time and was able to get them to get them to get executed because of the little trick he pulled on Kitana and Tanya. So with that happening, Kenshi still being blind, just like he was in the original, original and the second timeline. Same thing, Melina becoming part Tarkatan, whether it be through Tarkat or whether it was because she was cloned from Kitana. Then you have Baraka still being a Tarkatan. That hasn't changed. Like, a lot of the same stuff that's happened in the previous timelines is happening again. And like, I feel like certain events, and this could be just me, like maybe I'm overthinking it, but I just think certain events are set in stone. And like, whenever time travel is kind of doing that, it's always like some rule, you know? There's a rule that has to be put in place to like make sure like it doesn't get too crazy, you know what I mean? And I feel like the rule for Mortal Kombat is that there are certain events for each character that have to happen. You know what I mean? They have to happen for this to make sense and it to be like recognizable for us as like, you know, fans of the game and the universe of Mortal Kombat to like really be able to identify these characters. You know what I mean? So like, I just kind of like made a little list of things that I was thinking about, like, you know, for each character that pretty much stayed the same, and there are some that didn't, that were altered a little bit, and then others where they were just completely different characters from, you know, their last timeline, right? So basically, just start off with Kenshi being blind again. Obviously, this is not nothing new. Kenshi's blind, and he gets his psychic abilities from the souls he's absorbed from Ermac, which I thought was a really good twist. I like that they did that because like now it gives the reason of why he can use telekinesis. And then it just made the most sense with him being blindfolded again. So he followed the same order as the last timeline, and the same thing with Johnny Cage. Like, if we move it on to Johnny Cage. Johnny Cage is a failed actor again. Like, that has not changed. You would think in this timeline, Liu Kang would have made it so Johnny was a little more successful and like more content with everything that's going on around him. But to me, he's still like kind of like the same person. You know what I mean? More or less. Then we have Kung Lao. His ego is still a problem. He's not as egotistical as the last timeline. I feel like they've done a job of mixing, you know, the original Kung Lao from like the first Mortal Kombat like 1, 2, 3 game, like that Kung Lao, and then the new era, the NetherRealm era Kung Lao, and like put it together. Because like the first version of Kung Lao was very humble. He didn't want to take part in the tournament. Like, he didn't want to fight. He didn't care for fighting. And then like the second one is like he had his rivalry with Liu Kang, and he wanted to be better than Liu Kang. He wanted to represent the Order of Light and to be like the grand champion of Mortal Kombat, like his ancestor, the Great Kung Lao was. So then you have Melina and Baraka. Baraka again becomes afflicted with the Tarkat disease. And then you have Melina getting the Tarkat disease from probably not Baraka, but some kind of Tarkat she had interacted with, and like she became half Tarkatan, which, you know, obviously had to happen because Melina not being having Tarkatan kind of like fighting style. It would be weird. It wouldn't be Melina. And then you have Jared dying again, and then you have Sindel dying again. Now, mind you, the whole thing about Sindel dying again is like, this really only happens when she's a good guy. Whenever she ends up being a good guy, she always ends up dying. Like, that's just kind of like her role, I guess, as like, you know, the good empress. But like when she's bad, like, I mean, I guess when she did die technically in Mortal Kombat 9, but her role is just to die. Like, I feel like that's just how her role ends up going every time a Mortal Kombat game comes out. She's introduced, because she doesn't live through the game. Like, she usually never lived through the game. Like, even in Mortal Kombat 11, like, she was alive, but then she was erased from the time like everybody else. So I guess everybody died in Mortal Kombat 11. But I'm just saying, like, every time Sindel gets introduced to the game, she just ends up dying. And then what do you have? Obviously, King Jared. He has to die for the story to progress along, I suppose. And then you have Shang Tsung and Quan Chi they're restudying dark magic, trying to get back to where they were in the original time. Like, obviously, in Shang Tsung's ending, he was he was studying the well of souls. Meanwhile, Quan Chi is like studying all types of dark magic to kind of like get, you know, to find where the hourglass is, and because he wants to control everything. He wants to be the new keeper of time, but ultimately he doesn't realize that the hourglass isn't in the realms. It is just outside the realms. And then you have like Kitana, Tanya, Li Mei, Reptile, Garrus, and Raiden, who have like kind of different personalities. Like, in terms of like kind of Kitana, like, I feel like in the last time, like, Kitana, like, in the beginning, like, she didn't really know her role in what, like, she was like, she thought she was an assassin. Like, she was more of an assassin than anything. And like, through meeting Liu Kang, she kind of figured out, like, you know, she could be more than that, and that she was actually, and she, you know, her father-in-law, or like, I won't say father-in-law, but like, you know, her stepfather was an evil person, and like, you know, he needed to be dealt with. So she betrays Shao Kahn and helps Earthrealm to fight against Shao Kahn. And then like in this one, with Shao not being prevalent, and, you know, Outworld being relatively peaceful, like, Kitana was able to have a, you know, more like, she understood her place in the hierarchy of Outworld. And I feel like her role and being a general and like trying to just support Melina just really gave her like some clarity, and like it just made her understand her role in Outworld and just in Mortal Kombat. Like, she's a lot more like understanding where she belongs, versus like, you know, the last timeline version of Kitana. Like, she didn't really get her place until after she had met Liu Kang, if that makes sense. And then you have Tanya, who's vastly different. Tanya in the last timeline was traitorous. She betrayed everybody. She only cared for herself. And then in this one, like, she's completely the opposite. Like, she loves Melina. Like, that's her chick. Like, you know, she's completely different. She's more trustworthy. She's honorable. Like, that's just how Tanya is. She's completely 100, 360% like different, like, you know. And then you have Lee May, who is much older in this timeline versus like the original timeline. I feel like Lee May was more of like in her 20s versus like she's vastly older in this game, and like she's just more of a senior to, like, you know, Tanya and Melina and Katana. Like she just basically, she's like a wise teacher in this one because she's taught them since they were kids. And remind you, remember, like Katana and Melina are 10,000 years old. Like, so she's rather old in this game. So her being a more wise and a friend of Sindel leads me to believe that she's more around Sindel's age in this timeline, which is interesting to say the least. So her story is a little bit different. She's not like fighting to protect her village or anything like that. And then we have Reptile, whose personality is obviously a lot different. Like in, you know, previous iterations of the Reptile, he's always a minion. He's always following somebody. He's never for himself. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't have much of a story outside of like him wanting to bring back his race. And in this timeline, his race still exists, and you know, he's able to like be with them, but then like he's rejected by his race. And like, he has a really dope personality, especially in terms of like the way his backstory is with his family. And then like his relationship with Ashura just gives him even more of a kind of a glow up compared to like the last timeline. So I think if anybody really benefited from the new era, it was probably Reptile. Because Reptile is like whole character, like, you know, family and everything, just like it worked out so well for him, even if he is rejected by like his people. Like he's had a really good glow up. And then you have Garrus. Now mind you, this version of Garrus is based off of Liu Kang. I'm guessing like the Keeper of Time, or like the each Garrus is like kind of like a reflection of the Keeper, whereas in Mortal Kombat 11, like Garrus was very like combative and like wanted to just do absolutely everything exactly how Chronica was, and he was a more evil character. And then like we have this version of Garrus, which is he's more dutiful, he's more loyal, and like he cares more about the greater good, and because like that's basically how Liu Kang is. So like, you know, he takes on the traits of his Keeper of Time, and that's basically like how like he's really different. Raiden, it's interesting because Raiden's he's a really humble, like. I think he might even be more humble than Liu Kang was. And like, I just think it's interesting the route they took him, because like, yeah, Raiden's always been honorable and stuff like that, but like they took his thing up to a higher degree than, you know, what he normally did. So I thought that was really interesting with the way they took his characters. Like, and then like, you know, you have other characters like Rain, whose ambition still controls him, even if he regrets his actions, like he did result in a lot of people's deaths in Seto. And then you have Shao, who still has the same concrete tendencies, even if he's lost. He's still kind of the same character from the original time. So, and then we got Thomas and Kuai Liang's friendship still being a thing. Like, you know, how close they were, almost like brothers in the last timeline. They still have that same relationship. You have Asher still seeking absolution. You know, although this time, like, it seems like Natusha is not like controlling Ashura, so that's something that's good. I feel like Natara has probably changed the most out of all the characters, because like I feel like in the original timeline with Natara was a lot more confident, and she seemed a lot more intimidating, smart, and just like overall just like a character that didn't need to follow nobody. And then you have like this version where Natara just seems like she needs Quan Chi's assistance instead of doing things on her own. Like, in the original timeline, in Deadly Alliance, Natara tricked Cyrax into helping her free her realm. She tricked Reptile in order to like give her the time she needed to do all that. She manipulated them both, but in doing so, she gave them what they wanted. So is it really a manipulation of the way she did things? Perhaps, but at the end of the day, Cyrax was able to get back to Earthrealm, and Reptile was able to find out where Princess Katana was at her camp. And so in the end, like, yeah, she manipulated them, but she gave them what they wanted as well. So it wasn't like a complete manipulation. Like, they both got something out of it, if that makes sense. Natara was able to free her realm and to be free of Shao Kahn's grasp, and which basically is complete opposite of how the Vaterians are now. Because like, okay, in the original timeline, the Vaterians didn't suffer from hunger because obviously they were part of Outworld, so they could feed wherever they wanted, whenever they wanted. And then you have this version where the Vaterians aren't part of Outworld, At least it doesn't seem like it is. And they're hungry. They don't have a source of food, because in this timeline they're more complacent, they're more peace. It's a lot more peaceful than it was initially, because when they were a part of, when they got conquered by Shao Kahn and Outworld. So now, like, Nitara's character just, she seems more like a minion. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't seem like the Nitara that I grew up with, that I know of, because Nitara's personality, like, she was very, like, she was a leader, bro. Like, to be honest, like, she led in a way that, like, she was just a strong female character in that game. And then I feel like in this one, like, she's more of like a side character. You know what I mean? Like, that's what she feels like, just because of the way they did her character in the game. And then, like, all in all, I think the most weirdest thing in this game is the fact that Havoc is Dairu. Like, that was just a weird thing they did. And, like, I don't know why they combined Dairu and Havoc. So, if, like, why they did that, I don't know. Like, it is what it is. They made that change, so there's nothing that can be done about it. I just, like, kind of wanted to talk about this part here, because, like, all the characters have gone, it's rather, like, probably like 80% is still, like, kind of like what happened in the last timeline. Everything's pretty much happening the same. Like, so, like, that's why I think that characters that happen, like, they became revenants or race, like, I feel like they still will go through the same thing at some point. Maybe what you call it, Kuai Liang, I don't know. Like, I think Kuai Liang is pretty safe, and I think so is Hanzo, but I think Sub-Zero is probably gonna be killed at some point during story DLC or during the next game. And, like, there's just, like, breadcrumbs that kind of, like, leads you to believe that the story is going to be pretty much the same thing. Like, I don't think that they're going to change it much, if I'm being honest. Like, I feel like certain things Liu Kang can't change no matter how much he tries. I feel like they're fixed points in Mortal Kombat. So, in regards to, like, Sub-Zero becoming a noob Saibot, Hanzo becoming a vengeful spirit, maybe we'll actually see a vengeful Sub-Zero. That would be interesting. I could see something like that being, that could be something that's really fun. You know what I mean? Because, like, they're gonna have their allegiances. Maybe at some point Hanzo even betrays Sub-Zero and joins Quan Chi, and then blah blah blah. And we get that, like, kind of like arc where where Hanzo and Quan Chi are together again, yada yada yada. But I just thought, you know, after reading the comment on that short, it just gave me an idea to just really talk about, like, this aspect and how a lot of the things that happened in the original timeline kind of happened the same, but they're a little bit different. But it's pretty much the same kind of stuff that they're going through. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Do you agree? Like, these, I mean, I think a lot of stuff that happens, like, they're kind of set in stone. I don't know if you guys feel the same way. And, like, I'm sure we won't get all the answers for these characters in this game. We'll probably get it in future games. So I thought it was just something that was interesting to talk about, just because, like, there are things that match up almost identically with the original timeline and the second timeline with this current era, and I thought that it was something that should be talked about, because, like, I think that it's important to talk about what we think could happen, like, if it's going to be the same or it's going to be a little different. I think we're gonna get a lot of things that are just, like, similar to the last timeline, but they're gonna change. I'll alter them a little bit. That's why I think Hanzo Hasashi is gonna end up being Sub-Zero. But that's just my thoughts on it. Like, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like, do you think the game is, like, everything that's happening is happening just like it did in the original timeline? Do you think, like, who do you think's noob Saibot is gonna end up being? Is it gonna be Bihan, or is it gonna be like Hanzo, or is it gonna be, like, maybe Bihan's father? Which I don't think it would ever be Bihan's father, just because, you know, Quan Chi never met Bihan's father, for what we know of. There may be something later on they could talk about, but I just thought it would be important to talk about this subject. But anyways, guys, that's gonna do it for me today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know you guys' thoughts in the comment section below again, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. I'm out. Peace.
Please fill my cup. Am I really asking for much? It's been a long week, I'm looking for fun. Please fill my cup. Find me under the sun. SOS, I'm just looking for a good time. Whoa.